Welcome everyone to the West Canada Valley Board of Education meeting. Tonight is Monday, March 20th. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody. Before we get started with our regular meeting tonight, we have our representatives from BOCES here we'd like to welcome here tonight. I'd like to introduce Holly Poulos. She is the president of the BOCES board and also a board member or president
Yes.
of O&D Young.
Vice president.
And vice president of the O&D Young School District Board. And I'd also like to introduce Steve Coop. He is the business manager at BOCES, and they'll be presenting the budget tonight to us from BOCES like they do every single year. So thank you both for coming. Sorry about the delay.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. And Holly, if you want to go first.
Wonderful,
thank you.
absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to come up this evening, and I appreciate you working out the weather for me. That was a little bit better than trying to do it last week. We actually had our ODY meeting last week, and we moved our meeting up an hour, so not having to travel and whatnot, it worked out really well. So this evening, I wanted to kind of come introduce myself and just be another face to you as your representatives of the West Canada Valley to our BOCES board. I have had the chance to be in your school just once. It's nice being in another small school. I do represent O&D Young, so a nice tiny school. I do remember being here for a music contest with one of my children, just in All County, something along those lines. My path to BOCES board leadership and participation hasn't been the most traditional. I joined the BOCES board in October of 2021 after the representative from O&D Young passed away, unfortunately. And then this past January, I was elected president of the board after Mr. Clements passed away. So I'm not sure what that means, Janine, but
Nobody sits on my right side.
Nobody sits on your right side, that's right. But I wanted to come. One of our board goals at BOCES is to increase the communication that we have from BOCES to all of our component districts. So as I said, I wanted to come and introduce myself as just one more face who, along with Janine, is able to take the concerns and the needs of your community back to BOCES and vice versa. One of the ways that we want to communicate with our boards is our publication, Your Kids, Your BOCES. The latest edition went out in January. You all should have received a copy of that in your email. Does that look familiar? If by chance you didn't get it, please let myself or Janine or Steve know so we make sure you are getting a copy of that. That is one of the tools that we use to communicate what's happening at BOCES back to the home districts. Because in reality, while we get to spend a lot of time with your students, they are your students. Actually on page 15 of that is an article about Don, who I believe is one of your bus drivers here, and is one of our newest employees at BOCES. As I'm sure Janine has shared with you, there's two big items that are taking up the time of the BOCES Board of Education right now, and that is our capital project, which we were rightfully able to pass and move forward through the intermunicipal agreement this past fall, as well as then our task of finding a new district superintendent. So with the BOCES building project, things are moving forward. One of our first big steps on that was our building condition survey and having our facility committee review the building condition survey, which was done at the beginning of March, so they can help to identify priorities so that we can continue to move that forward. And I believe DJ, you sit on that committee.
Yes.
And that's a committee that is really kind of fluid in that we welcome anyone new at any time. Even if you're not able to commit to full membership and always attending, but we would just like to come to one meeting to hear firsthand what's happening with that project, you're more than welcome to it. And that committee will be something that we really rely on post-capital project to help us identify and to help us keep moving forward in maintaining our facilities. It's not just specific to the capital project, but really the maintenance of our facilities moving forward so that we can make sure that we have the safest environment for your students. And then our other thing that we're really focused on right now is finding Sandy's successor. So Mrs. Sherwood, as you I'm sure know, has put in her retirement. At our last board meeting, we regretfully officially accepted her retirement letter. She'll be retiring in September. And our work to find her successor really started at our February meeting, but really kicked into high gear for us this past Friday, where we spent several hours in a workshop with Mr. Scott Budelman, who is the superintendent of the Madison Oneida BOCES, who is serving as our search consultant, helping us to kind of walk through the exercise of identifying what are the strengths of our BOCES, what are the opportunities of our BOCES, what are the skills, the attributes, the traits that we're looking for in our new leader. He's going to be going through that exercise with a number of other community groups, from staff to the superintendents, and making sure that we're getting all that information that we can then pull together and make sure that we're identifying not only what we think is a board, but what our what all the constituents really need to move our BOCES forward. The application is out. It is on our website, as well as the Madison Oneida website, as well as advertising a variety of other networks. And with the applications due, I believe, the 17th?
April 17th.
17th of April. And after that, we'll begin reviewing the process and hope to have a new candidate ready to present to the commissioner in June, so that we can have someone on board before Sandy's official last day, so we can do some overlap there. So finally, I wanted to just share with each of you my business card. So if there's anything that I can do, feel free to let me know. I want to make sure everybody can get a hold of me. As I mentioned, one of our board goals is communication with our districts. But personally, I'd like to kind of take that a little bit further, and it's my personal goal to make sure that the communication amongst BOCES and back to our component districts is clear, concise, and accurate as we move forward in a lot of this work. So, as long as there's no questions for me, I will turn it over to Steve and the budget and the numbers. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All of you, I believe, received this document in your board packet, so I'll make reference to the pages in this document as we go through the process here tonight. A couple of things. First, Sandy regrettably could not be here tonight. She had a prior commitment, so we respectfully me to do this. She usually does most of the talking. Probably because a lot of business managers have the innate ability to put people to sleep after about 15 minutes. So based on that, and then I was a component board member for a few years, I'll try to be quick. This is a picture of some of our students that went to Skills USA national competition. They came in 6th nationally, so that was a great feature, so Sandy wanted to share that as part of our presentation tonight. The picture here is of our Ready Tech students, which is a program that kind of pulls in the at-risk kids in 9th and 10th grade and gets them ready for CTE so that they're not falling behind in the typical high school program. So the first thing that they needed was some workbenches, so that's early in the school year, they put some workbenches together. So we're going to go through the several sections of the administrative budget, which is the Board of Education, the district superintendent, central administration, business administration, the transfer charges, and the big high dollar one is the post-employment retirement benefits, health insurance. For the Board of Education, this covers mainly things. There's part of the district clerk is in there, who's the board clerk, salary and benefits, and the rest of it is a lot of charges that the board may have to incur, legal charges, the audits that we have to go through, the internal audit, the external audit, et cetera, but no major changes here. Went up about 3%. With the district superintendent, As you know, as Holly just said, that we're going to be, the board is going to be searching for a new DS upon Sandy's retirement. And a couple of years ago, they decided they needed to increase the superintendent's salary in order to be competitive when that search came around. The two things about the BOCES superintendents that's different from a superintendent of schools in a district is that there's a salary cap, an overall cap, statewide cap, which is $208,250. And then there's also a cap for each year. You can only raise the BOCES superintendent's salary 6%. So what the board did last year was raise it 6%. They're raising it 6% this year, which will bring the, I believe the total will be about a little over 192,000, which is fairly close to the cap. 29 of the 37 BOCES in the state are already at the cap. So in order to attract somebody with the right talent, and the board felt that was it. Other than that, all the other expenses here were pretty much in line with just regular contractual increases. Overall, so that went up 5.66%. Central administration is things like our HR department, administration of the operation and maintenance and that kind of thing. Very small increase there. It was overall went up 3.09%. I don't think there's anything that jumps out on this page. Pretty much across the board, contractual increases. Business administration was the one that went up quite a bit. And we eliminated two of the services that we had offered previously. One was a cooperative purchasing and cooperative bidding, and the other one was the central business office. So pieces of people that are still in the BOCES business office, we're charged to the central business office or the purchasing COSER. So I'm a perfect example of that. My salary used to be split 4 ways. Part of it went to the central business office. Now that the central business office is gone, my salary is split 3 ways. So it went from 25 to 33 or 34%. So those kind of reallocations, well, let me back up. The increase from the current budget to the proposed budget is about $143,000. So of the reallocating the people from COSERs that didn't exist back into the business office, that was about $34,000. Another $10,000 of that was just contractual increases in salaries. And then the board, at the suggestion of our auditor, added another accountant position based on the size of BOCES and compared to other BOCES they work with. So that was about $53,000. So the total of those salaries was about $97,000. And then the benefits that are associated with those was $44,000. So that's $141 of the $143,000. When we eliminated those COSERs, we did eliminate 3 positions, a senior account clerk and 2 account clerk positions. So we dropped, the business office has shrunk. Transfer charges are unique to a BOCES. It's one part of the BOCES paying back another part of the BOCES for those services. So the business, or the administrative budget will pay money over to the computer support. We'll pick up some of the telephone bill, et cetera, and some of the printing costs. And the staff development pieces for our Board of Education belonging to the School Boards Institute. The big dollar driver, obviously, in the admin budget of the BOCES is the post-employment retirement benefits. And Sandy included this picture of Luna, who's our newest employee. She's a therapy dog. It's not in service yet. She's still going through training. It's about another year. But she thought it would be appropriate on this slide because it is the only employee that will never have post-employment health insurance in retirement. These costs make up about a little over 60% of our admin budget. And some of that some of these costs are in our programs, but most of it isn't here. About a little over 70% is in the admin budget. So this year went up about 7.55%. Part of it for the health insurance cost, but also part of it, as people are retiring, there's more people going into the retirement on the beginning end that are dropping off on the other end. So we have more retirees, so the overall cost is going up as well. The ARWADA, the resident weighted average daily attendance, is how BOCES expenses are spread across the different districts. It's like each district has an ARWADA number that's assigned by the state. It's based on the attendance numbers that each district reports on what's known as Ben's Day in October, I believe that is. And based on those numbers, they'll come up with this resident weighted average daily attendance. It's obviously connected to enrollment, but it's a little bit different. It's weighted based on special needs students, and it's also, it says it's attendance, not enrollment. So you may have 1,000 students enrolled, but the average daily attendance might be 900. So with West Canada Valley, you're actually dropping a little bit from your share is 7.85% to 7.56%. But this year, 5 districts went up and 5 districts went down. So it's pretty typical that they never really changed that much. This is the administrative and capital, and I just realized that was probably what page in your book we're on. So this is pages 10, 11, and 12 will have the detail on this. This is the capital part you do not vote on. The components just vote on the administrative part. We show it here because there's the 3 main parts of the BOCES budget: administrative, capital, and the program. So program each district selects based on the services they need. So we should do admin and capital just to talk about the parts that are fixed, I guess. Anybody have any questions?
Do you have any questions at all on this?
If not, just a couple of reminder dates to remember. Thursday, March 30th is the annual meeting in the web. The student performance piece will be Frank Fitzschuyler's, that are our host this year. Frank Fitzschuyler, board president, will open up our meeting. And the community partner this year is Folksbrook Nursing Home. They were very helpful in working with our LPN program and the adult LPN program, and also our healthcare CTE program, and keeping the visits going during COVID, because there was a lot of restrictions on hospitals and nursing homes, et cetera. So they worked as best they could within the confines of the law to keep those contact hours going, which are important, obviously, to those students. So for that, we're going to be presenting that award this year. Wednesday, April 19th will be the budget vote and the election of our board members. There are 4 districts, as Frankfurt's coming up as well. Dolgeville, Mount Martin, and Poland. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
Any last questions for Steve or Holly regarding anything with BOCES?
Thank you very much.
Steve and Holly, thank you so much for coming up. Time to go through this one, appreciate it.
I think I did it. Nobody goes off.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Great. Thank you.
See you soon. All right, thank you all.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Ray, do you want to give us
So this past month, we did the required semi-annual training for the bus drivers. That was on March 17th. It's a 2-hour class that we have to give them every year, or twice a year rather. Extended day ends April 6th, so ending that. Spring sports trips are supposed to start the first week of April. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. We'll probably have some cancellations, I'm sure, but starting to swing of that. DOT is scheduled to be here on March 23rd, which is Thursday. I have started to receive some transportation requests for the upcoming year for the private schools. I've received 2 of them so far. They're both for St. Francis. Next month, I'll have that report together for you guys. We took delivery of our 3 new large buses. They came in this past month, so they're on the road now, so we're good with them. And still no change in the delivery date for the small bus, looking at May at some point. Other than that, do I got any questions?
Just a quick random question. Do you still do like bus trials with the kids?
Yep, actually they'll be coming up within the next 2 weeks. I'm just kind of waiting for some nicer weather. I was thinking maybe this week because it looks like it's going to be pretty nice as far as temperature wise, but it looks like a lot of rain. So I'll probably wait. Hopefully we can get it. But I'm trying to do it before we get to the break. That's a mandatory requirement too.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, we've started our Reading Safari program. That's our annual program where the kids get to read, collect hours, turn them in, and they get a pass to the water safari over the summer. They really seem to enjoy that, so we're going to continue on with that. All of our teachers and students have completed all of the benchmark assessments, which means that the teachers are preparing to update the RTI action plans that I showed you at the previous board meeting. We had both of our music in our schools concerts. I thought that the music department did a phenomenal job in both of those. The chorus, it was really nice to see the 4th graders add to that as well. And we had our parent-teacher conferences on March 16th and 17th with an average of 20 to 26 conferences per grade level. And we also had on those 2 days our pre-K registration and kindergarten registration. For pre-K registration, we've given out 35 packets so far. Of those 35, we've had 21 returned, but we do also have 6 that have appointments with me tomorrow night after school to make it convenient for them after work. And we're waiting for about 8 more, and it's still open for people to call in if they need a packet. Kindergarten registration, about the same. We've given out 34 packets so far. 20 of those have been returned, and they're all set and registered. 3 appointments tomorrow, and then we're waiting on the other 11. So we're probably going to see probably right around the same number of kindergarten students, I would guess, next year as we have this year. We're going to continue with our annual book swap. So we've had kids bringing in all of their books, and that is going to take place on March 23rd. And as usual, everybody's been very generous with their donations. We have plenty of books for all of the kids to be able to get at least 1, but probably 2. We're continuing with our 5-6 extended day program and our 3-4 STEM, which is now the STEAM program because we added the arts. And they gave me just a brief summary of some of the things so that you'd know what they were doing up there. They've done a team scavenger hunt on the nature trail, a snowman building competition, and some team created relay races. And then in the future, they're planning on doing a kindness bulletin board, painting happiness rocks to place along the nature trail, and a Lego balloon car race. So I think that the kids are really enjoying that up there. As far as pre-K goes, the last couple of snow days that we have coincidentally fell on a Tuesday, which is when we normally have our literacy coach here. So I was able to work with her virtually, and I think we're off to a really, really good start there. I'm excited about that program to start next year. It's going to be very hands-on, and I think people are really going to enjoy it for their children. And then the last thing is actually a message I was asked to pass on to you. I got a call from a parent. It was actually last week that she called me, but she asked me since this board meeting was coming up if I could just say thank you to all of you. Apparently she's an advocate for children with dyslexia. Her child is new to West Canada this year, so you haven't heard from her previously. So she just wanted to extend a thank you for supporting the Orton-Gillingham and multi-sensory approach. She said that she travels around to many, many schools, and she has really enjoyed seeing what we started here, so she just wanted to thank everyone for that. If you don't have any questions, I'm done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
sports, I have nothing new for you. Winter sports, just to recap, now that they're all completed, league champions this year for varsity basketball boys, JV basketball, girls varsity basketball, girls varsity indoor track, and girls varsity bowling. We were sectional champions for girls varsity bowling and girls varsity indoor track. Our bowling team, the girls, they competed at the States just last weekend, and they took 8th place in the BCD division. So different sports have different variation numbers, so there's Class A, or there's, double A, and then B, C, and D all get lumped together. So our girls took 8th place out of all the B schools, C schools, and D schools that were at the state. So it's a pretty marked, event. As for the sectionals, our indoor track, like I said, we were sectional champs there. Alyssa Youngs was able to advance all the way along to the state finals down there in Long Island. She took 22nd in the long jump and 16th in the triple jump down there. Cheerleading also had their sectionals. We were able to place 3rd in Class D this year. Kind of the same results as before. Mixed teams, we did beat some bigger schools, but out of our C division, we came in 3rd place. Spring sports are up and running now. They started last Monday for varsity. Modified will start on April 3rd. Our baseball numbers aren't great, but we are going to have enough to fill the team this year. Softball, same. They're always right about where they are. The one thing I do want to mention is modified baseball and modified softball. We have huge numbers right now. So we have 21 boys signed up and we have 20 girls signed up. It's different seeing the number than who actually shows up, because I have more kids for varsity baseball than I have right now too. So if all 21 show up, I mean, there's a chance that we might end up having to do some cuts there, which we don't generally have to do around here, but I just want to put that out so everybody hears it first, and just know that it is a possibility. And then as far as miscellaneous things, the fitness center, the pool, and the hall walking are still going on right now. Fitness center is still getting 6 to 7 people a night. The swimming has died off. We haven't really gotten anybody too much for that the last couple of weeks, and there are still some people out. I mean, there's people walking the halls right now, so I kind of wanted to ask you, how much longer did we want to go on? Originally, we talked about doing it until the end of March. Is it something we want to keep doing as far as the fitness center goes, or do we think you want to wrap this thing up now that the weather's getting nicer? Any thoughts?
Just the fitness center or the walking outreach?
I mean, I think the hall walking could probably still go on. I mean, people seem to like that until it's nice enough to get out on the sidewalks, but
People just aren't coming.
just, yeah, now that it's starting to get warmer, you know what I mean? Everybody's getting out of the house a little bit now, so. But, so Mr. Russo will be coaching baseball, but Mrs. Santmeyer said she'd be willing to pick up the other nights if we want to keep the fitness center open. So I have somebody available to do it if we want to do it.
I think it'd be nice to keep it,
Keep it going for a little while longer?
because people don't have home gym to,
Okay. So we'll just kind of do it by month here, and then next month I'll come back and see, okay, all right. And then the only other thing was Mr. Shepherdson had reached out to me a while back about potentially putting together a equipment replacement plan for the fitness center, while we were talking about it. And that is something we were gonna introduce next year. One of our ellipticals has moved on in life, and it can't be repaired because it's so old that they don't even make the parts for it anymore. So I went and saw Mrs. Crossett, and we probably could get one out. I got a couple of quotes from the place that services our equipment center, but it's not anything that we budgeted for this year. So I don't know if you want me to go ahead and replace it now, or if we want to just wait and get it built into a budget. And there is another elliptical down there now. We did have 2 of them. One was a standard elliptical, one was the arc trainer. But we could get another arc trainer right now if we wanted to keep us. So brand new, there's $6,500, but they do have a floor model that's sitting there for $4,500 that we could use. And they said it's absolutely fine, it just sits in there, and that's the discount for getting the floor model.
It's probably the #1 used thing now.
I would say, especially for the community part of it, I mean, that gets used more than anything else, I would think.
So, Mr. Doherty kind of mentioned that. So we have kind of a running plan set up, and we were talking a lot about this because the fitness center is just something I think has been a real value to the district for our athletes and all those kinds of things. And I think in the long term, we want to make sure that we're keeping that to where it needs to be. And it's not, the equipment's well taken care of. You really haven't had to replace things. We've done some repairs. A lot of times we're able to maintain them with our maintenance plans. But like Mr. Doherty said, as they age and certain things and they come out with new technology and new things, then those parts just aren't available anymore. So that's we started to get a feel for that in the last couple of years, that the repairers were kind of getting, they were coming in saying we're fixing them, but just so you know, we're just getting them going again for you. These are aging on you. So we started throwing that, just like we have been doing with the other things. And our hope was that we'd go into starting next year, that'd be one of our plans. We'd have that in as part of our budget things and start to do a real good evaluation of our equipment, what's used the most and which is aging and those kind of things. But the elliptical in the middle of those conversations kind of went down. So, if everybody's okay, I do think, I had spoken with Ms. Cross about this as well. I think probably it's something if we're going to use the fitness center, one elliptical's tough, especially at night, because you're going to let a couple people on it. It's a pretty good deal right now on this brand new one too, to grab right now. And then going forward, we'd start to talk about where we're going.
Which I think this would actually save you from having to purchase one next year now, you know what I mean? So you're kind of getting it out of the way. I don't know that it would necessarily have to be a new piece of equipment every year you'd be replacing, but you would have an idea of where you would go with it. So.
I'm fine with everybody else's.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as
Anybody?
it's crossing.
Yeah.
Her eye twitched at me a little bit when I presented it to her. Does anybody have any questions?
Which one are we getting?
I would go for the floor model. I think would be your best. He assured me that it's just sitting there on the floor. It's not like they have people in there working out on it or anything. It's just a display model.
Warranty on it, like a new one or whatever?
Those are I wanted to talk to you to see if this was even worth the time before I reached back out to him, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Becker.
So I just wanted to mention the concerts as well. Mrs. Holmes mentioned, but on the 7th, we had our band concert, chorus concert on the 15th. I think anybody was there. We had, at one point, 179 kids together performing, which is pretty cool. My father said next to me, he goes, that's a lot of kids. And it's nice to see a big chunk of our district, working together in our music department, able to get them to all, through middle school, elementary, and high school, get them synced up so they can do it together. So that was great. Really, those are my two favorite concerts of the year, just to see them all together like that. On the 16th, I attended a school board institute showcase at BOCES. We had a number of our students there serving food, making food through the culinary program, and also showing different things that were going on there. Actually did a tour of the construction program to see what our kids are doing. They're working on a house right now, and I got to see that. That was great. I really enjoyed that. We had a half day on March 17th. Teachers worked on, we had a SEP meeting, we had a faculty meeting, teachers were working on RTI, AIS, talking about students, so that was a very productive day as well. I have a couple, 3 or 4 different field trips coming up, smaller ones for the kids. This Thursday, we have some of our students going down to Herkimer High School for theater artist play. It's when they're gonna go there and they're gonna do improv and interact. So that should be really good. This weekend coming up here, Friday the 24th and the 25th, is our drama club's Alice in Wonderland. That's at 7 p.m. each night. Tickets are $5. Really excited about that as well. Next week, Mr. Pullman is taking a group of students again to Herkimer High School to talk about Civil War stories. So that'll be a nice trip. And then Mr. Holman is going to be at HCCC April 3rd with a group of our students on hazing awareness. So we got a lot of little trips coming up for the kids, get them involved and different stuff here. Real good news is we're no longer cited by the state. We went from being a CSI school. If you look at this, this here, just talking a little about the shift. It used to be called good standing, but now they call it local support and improvement. The idea that the state has is that we're not going to stop all the stuff we're doing that was good. Just because we're off the list, we're going to continue, with the things that are working, the things that we've implemented to try to, continue to better the school. One thing that comes out of that is we have more control over kind of what we're doing and less oversight as far as the state is concerned. We don't have to write a plan. But we're looking to continue, you know, most of the stuff that we're working on now. Any questions? With that being said, you know, I just want to thank the students and the parents, you know, the hard work, the teachers and stuff to get us off that list. One of the big things that actually took us off that list is we got more students taking the state assessments. You know, our kids are smart kids, we just gotta get them in the seats and taking the test. That way we can get the scores that we need to, you know, show the state really what we're doing next week. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A motion to approve the consent agenda. Sean first, Sarah second, all in favor. This is to enter executive session for appointment of personnel matters, including review and appointment of employees and contract negotiations. Sean first, Jimmy second, all in favor.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. We are starting back up with the action items. First off, personnel report. Motion to accept the resignation of Donald Maxwell, bus driver, effective January 18th, 2023. Sarah first, Sean second, all in favor? Motion to accept the resignation of Ed Doherty, Director of Special Programs, Athletics, K through 12, effective August 31st, 2023. Shauna first, Sarah second, all in favor? Motion to accept the resignation of Carolyn Morris, teacher, aide, effective August 31st, 2023. Janine first, Sarah second, all in favor? Motion to accept the resignation of Brianne Parent, elementary teacher, effective August 31st, 2023. Sean first, Sarah second, all in favor? Motion to accept the resignation of Glenn Minor, teacher assistant for purpose of retirement, effective April 17th, 2023. Sean first, Shauna first, Janine second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Ed Doherty, middle school, high school science teacher, 7 through 12, 3-year probationary appointment in the tenure area of science, 7 through 12, for the negotiated salary of the WCBTA bargaining agreement, effective September 1st, 2023. Janine first, Shauna second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Brianne Parent, literacy specialist, 3-year probationary appointment in the tenure area of literacy, for the negotiated salary of the WCBTA bargaining agreement, effective September 1st, 2023. Sarah first, Shauna second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Carolyn Morris, teacher assistant, 3-year probationary appointment in the tenure area of teacher assistant, for the negotiated salary of the CSEA bargaining agreement, effective September 1st, 2023. Janine first, Sean second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Tracy Farber, teacher assistant, 3-year probationary appointment in the tenure area of teacher assistant, for the negotiated salary of the CSEA bargaining agreement, effective September 1st, 2023. Shauna first, Janine second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Allison Mahay, teacher assistant, 4-year probationary appointment in the tenure area of teacher assistant, for the negotiated salary of the CSEA bargaining agreement, effective September 1st, 2023. Sarah first, Sean second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Emily Goggin, 10th grade advisor, for the extracurricular index of the WCBTA bargaining agreement, effective for the 2022-23 school year. Sarah first, Janine second, all in favor?
DJ, does that some, or Kelly?
Prorate.
She just started now though.
Yeah,
right?
she'll prorate whatever the ones are left. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Motion to appoint Lindsay Buckley, yearbook advisor, for the extracurricular index of the WCBTA bargaining agreement, effective 2023-24 school year. Sean first, Sarah second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Brandon Grabowski, volunteer assistant baseball, effective 2022-23 school year. Sean first, Shauna second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Michaela Miller, certified substitute teacher, teacher assistant, monitor aide, K through 12, for the district approved rate sheet, effective March 21st, 2023. Shauna first, Sarah second, all in favor? Motion to appoint Danielle Depot, substitute food service worker, for the CSEA bargaining agreement, effective March 21st, 2023. Oh. I was just excited to get done. Okay. Sarah first, and you second. Education of the West Canada Valley Central School District is proposing to undertake a capital improvements project consisting of 1, the installation of new track and field lighting systems, 2, the installation of new bleachers north of the track and field, 3, the replacement of existing grass track and field with synthetic turf, 4, the installation of drainage improvements, and 5, miscellaneous interior renovations to the existing school building. Whereas the State Environmental Quality Review Act and the regulations thereunder require the board to undertake a review of the potential environmental impacts, if any, associated with the project before approving the same. And whereas this project is an unlisted action within the meaning of secret. Sean first, Sarah second. All in favor? This is where they, did the study on the.
Yeah, so the secret resolution, and I can talk a little bit about each one of these. So basically, for us to do any work outside like that, then it needs to be completed, and it takes into all environmental things and that are associated with that sort of project. It also makes you the lead agency in that along the way, so.
Okay, on to the next resolution, a motion to accept the transportation project proposition resolution. Okay.
Yeah, so basically, this resolution that we're gonna read through here and approve is associated with the propositions that will be on the ballot in May. This will include the transportation and the purchase of the buses under our transportation replacement plan, and the proposition for phase 2 of the capital project, in which you just approved the secret for. This will approve that it goes on the ballot in May for voters to decide whether we move forward with phase 2 of the capital project.
Okay. So a motion to approve transportation project proposition resolution dated March 20th, 2023 of the Board of Education of the West Canada Valley Central School District, authorizing propositions to be presented to the voters at the annual school district meeting. Proposition number 2, shall the Board of Education of West Canada Valley Central School District be authorized to 1, acquire 4 school buses at a maximum aggregate cost of approximately $563,491. 2, expend such sum for such purpose. 3, levy the necessary tax therefore to be levied and collected in annual installments in such years and in such amounts as may be determined by the Board of Education, taking into account state aid and trade-in values. And 4, in anticipation of the collection of such tax, issue bonds, notes, and/or installment purchase contracts of the district at one time or from time to time in the principal amount not to exceed $435,491, and levy a tax to pay the interest on said obligations when due. Proposition number 3, shall the Board of Education of the West Canada Valley Central School District be authorized to 1, construct and reconstruct improvements to athletic fields, facilities and sites, acquire original furnishings, equipment, machinery, or apparatus required for the purpose for which such fields, facilities, and sites are to be used, and pay costs incidental thereto at a maximum aggregate cost of $4 million. 2, expend such sum for such purpose. 3, levy the necessary taxes therefore to be levied and collected in annual installments in such years and in such amounts as may be determined by the Board of Education, taking into account state aid. And 4, in anticipation of the collection of such tax, issue bonds and notes of the district at one time or from time to time in the principal amount not to exceed $4 million, and levy a tax to pay the interest on said obligations when due. Sean first, Sarah second, all in favor. Now, next resolution,
project, they talked a little bit about that tonight. This bonding resolution is required by all school districts that are in this project itself. It authorizes each district, if necessary, to bond for payment on any of the costs associated with the BOCES if need be. Without doing this, you wouldn't have that opportunity to do so. It doesn't mean that you're going to bond for it, it just means that you have the ability to do that.
Okay, motion to accept the BOCES capital project bonding resolution. Bond resolution dated March 20th, 2023 of the Board of Education of the West Canada Valley Central School District authorizing not to exceed $3,888,000 aggregate principal amount of serial general obligation bonds to finance the district's share of the cost of a certain capital project to be undertaken by the Herkimer, Fulton, Hamilton, Otsego Board of Cooperative Educational Services at a maximum estimated cost of $3,888,000 levy of tax and annual installments and payment. Sarah first, Sean second, all in favor. Okay, one more. The cooperative purchasing resolution.
So, as you see, you'll see tonight when we go through the budget pieces of this as well, the costs and the requirements associated with water testing have significantly increased for all school districts across the state. So what is happening at this point in time is school districts are joining together to get into cooperative purchasing agreements through various BOCES so that we're able to offset the costs of water testing in the district. So we'll still take care of all that, we'll do all that kind of thing, but the overall cost of this will be reduced by doing it this way.
Okay. Motion to accept the resolution authorizing participation in Oswego County BOCES Cooperative Purchasing Program. Whereas the Cooperative Purchasing Service is a plan of a number of public school districts in the Oswego County Board of Cooperative Educational Services area in New York, known as the Center for Instruction Technology and Innovation, to bid jointly for water testing and sampling services. And whereas West Canada Valley Central School District is desirous of participating with Oswego County Board of Cooperative Educational Services and other boards of cooperative educational services and public school districts in the joint bidding of the services mentioned above as authorized by General Municipal Law, Section 119. Sean first, Ginny second. All in favor? Motion to approve the 2023-2024 district calendar. Sarah first, Janine second, all in favor? Okay. First discussion item will be budget workshop tour.
So, the extra week actually helped with this. You have two handouts that were on your table when you arrived. One being the revenue side of it, one being an update to the appropriations side of it. This is the revenue side, it's on a long sheet like this, two-sided. Everybody can see that, it's not your packets, because we gave it to you today. And the other one is the staple packet, which is all the expenditure side of this. So I want to start out as I go through, or having Kelly take us through our expenditures, and then we'll take a look at the revenue sides of it. For this month, we have put the revenue side, including tax percentage numbers on there for you, and that's part of the discussion tonight. Obviously, our goal is to approve this budget on April 3rd, when we have our next meeting in a couple of weeks. So we want to go through and have some discussions and get pretty close to finalizing where we think we might be, so that we're able to, on April 3rd, finalize our budget for the next school year. So with that being said, Cal, I'm going to have you take us through the appropriations piece, the updates you put into this, where we stand as of tonight.
You have the paper in front of you here, I've got the notations on the sides of are. Most of it is salary and benefits. If you look at the very first one, the salary looks like a larger increase than what it truly is, but that's because the budget from last year, the number that I had budgeted, the approved contract came back more than what I had budgeted originally. So any of these that I've got noted are an increase from last year and this year. So that's why some of them look like more than what we expect them to be. And then if you go down to A1310-161, business manager, that one is a larger increase because I pulled the maintenance part of it back to the business office side. So there's a $10,000 decrease on the maintenance line of 1620 that corresponds with the increase on this line. And then down to is fiscal advisor fees was up on that one because of all the projects that we've been doing. And then the other two are BOCES increases.
What's that for, Tom? That one you just did?
Fiscal advisor,
Yeah.
it's for Dr. Timms, for all, he's helping us coordinate all of the projects that we're doing in the BOCES project, and I'm on the phone with him regularly. On the next page, the top one is bond council fee, which is also associated with the capital projects, and the bus bonding and all of that. The rest of them down through there are salaries. If you look at it down on 1620-166, that's the negative 20,000, and 10 of it went to the business code, and 10 of it went to the transportation code. For Felix's portion of it. Down the next one is the increase in lab fees, 7,000, and the lab we were using closed, so we have a new lab, and the fees are a little bit more. I reduced the operations electric line, because we're continuing to, I've waited a few years to try to see if it's gonna level out with the LED lighting that we put in, and I've been able to decrease it some each year. Operations and supplies on page 3, that's just cost increases for the cleaning products and paper products. The next line down is the fuel cost. I reduced that a little bit from what I had in the last budget run. I took a average of what we've paid so far this year per gallon, and I did drop that down just a little bit. The next line is the salaries, again, for the increase for the 2 years. The next line is the utility vehicle, the side-by-side that we're gonna upgrade. I put that in there with the buyback portion of it also reflected in there. So the overall increase is 15,000. Down the next one down is the additional SRO. That's not all of that, but the large majority of that is the additional SRO costs. And then maintenance and supply fees, same thing, products are going up in price. Bottom one is the BOCES admin that was presented tonight. And then the top of page 4 is the capital project, our first payment of $933,000. That's scary. The rest, next ones on that page are the salaries and then BOCES. Basically, it's all salaries. Top of page 5, we had a significant decrease in the BOCES line on that one because we have fewer tech students. Last year we had 7, or right now we have 7 students, and in the coming year we have 1. And that's the last, I believe that's the last year for the program, isn't it, DJ?
So, that's still up in the air on that one. But yeah, we've got to just not okay with that for sure.
BOCES, supplies, salaries. That's basically what all this is down. And now if you look down towards the bottom, 2280 code, career and tech, that's an increase in participation in the number of students. updates. Most of that is our scheduled replacements, but I believe we had one set that we had to replace because of the logo.
There's a couple sets, there's 3 sets actually.
In addition to our normal. Salaries. The transportation salary, that's a large increase because of, again, of the 2 years, but it's also because of adding the drivers, the 2 drivers that we had, that we use every day. And the next one is 10,000 of that is from the maintenance codes. Same with the fuel cost increase on page 8, I took an average of what we've paid so far this year, and we did knock that down just a little bit from last month. We'll continue to monitor it. And starting at the bottom of page 8 and over to page 9 is all of benefits. And those are contractuals that we have no control over. TRS retirement, social security, workers' comp, health insurance. We had a 5% increase for the health insurance this year. The next line down on the 9089 is potential retirements in the administrative area. The bond payments, it's a significant decrease. Part of that is because of the refunding that we did of the bonds 2 years ago. That's the biggest reason that they decreased. Now, next year, when we start paying on the next capital project, that'll go up some. The buses are the next line, the 305. And then the interest on the band, the project that we're starting right now, we'll do a bond anticipation note for that. And this is the interest that will accrue on that bond anticipation until we do the final bonding. And that's an estimate of 150. The overall increase in the budget is 7.97, but that is with the BOCES project. If you pull the BOCES project out of it, just our increases is 3.23. Any questions?
So, uniform updates, went from 14 to 24, they're on our list here. It's 14.7.
The uniform replacement plan.
Did that get updated, Eddie?
Yeah.
So we have 2 additional, what do we have? We have the base, which is probably 14, is that what the base is?
So, for 23-24, you have $3,400 that's going for your baseball uniforms. You had track, $3,000 for the boys, $3,000 for the girls. Those are both coming up. The golf got slid forward, $1,200 for that one. And then down at the bottom, you had girls softball, and then you had the 2 soccer uniforms, boys modified and boys varsity, that you would be buying for those. Neither one of those were up yet, but that and the softball one were all mascot mandate ones that were added in. So they would come off of the upcoming years following behind that. So that nothing really went up, you just slid a couple of them forward to meet your mandate. And based off of your soccer numbers that are on the wall right now, I don't know if you'll even be purchasing those uniforms at all. So I just put it in there as your worst case scenario.
In softball, they just received new uniforms.
Softball, those already got purchased, those were part of this year, so we already had those.
Okay.
Did they have a?
They just say West Canada across them. No, they're brand new, they just say West Canada on them.
But did they have?
They did it, no, they said West Canada as well. The ones that had the mascot on them are all getting replaced this year.
Right.
So you had the
I
2
just-
tracks,
I think that's
Oh, the
probably
tracks.
not listed.
2 tracks, modified softball,
Softball.
and then you have the golf, and then the 2 soccer ones, which if you don't have numbers for them, I probably wouldn't go ahead and purchase uniforms for them, so. But until you know that, they had to go on for the plan, you know.
Any other questions?
All right, let's see, are the substitute going up 10,000 and 10,000?
Well, we are going to be
Are
over.
we short this year? Huh?
Yeah, we'll be over by the end of the.
Okay, so we're gonna be short this year.
Yeah, we've got a young staff, a lot of maternity leaves. Yeah, they're open now. Yeah, we've had a lot of subs this year. Anything else?
So as you go through that, I'll take you over to the revenue side of this. I want Kelly to take us through the revenues again. I don't think a lot has changed on the revenue side of things. But obviously, the addition of this, we've added the various potential tax levy discussion items onto the spreadsheet and the revenues. So that you're able to see that as well tonight in at different levels. But before we get into the revenues, yeah, let's do the revenue side first. Go through the revenues, and then I want to talk a little bit about the tax levy.
I don't believe I've changed anything on the revenues since the last run, other than I did increase the interest, 2401. I increased that a little bit because we are getting more interest right now because of the rates being up. And I adjusted the closest capital project aid. Calculation that they did was not accurate, so we recalculated that and put that on there. I don't think anything else has changed since the last one. And this, the 23-24 proposed budget is assuming a 0% tax levy increase. That is going to require us to appropriate $2.2 million worth of fund balance. And my prediction right now is that our fund balance is probably going to drop, not significantly, but it will drop some this year, just because of the higher contracts and stuff that were settled.
How far?
I don't have a firm number on it, but I don't think it's gonna be significant. I'm thinking maybe
But is the
500.
fund balance still way above that 4%
Yes.
or whatever?
What is the fund balance right now?
Right now, we are at 4.1 million, but I expect it to drop probably by about 500,000. But like I said, not significant, but
Not significant, but we're still well above the 4%, which is, we always get dinged on in our audit.
they note it, that we're above. Once we get down to that point, then we can look at, students, do you have a question? We can look at doing possibly starting to have a reserve or not borrowing as much for the project. There's a couple of different things that we can look at. As you go across the page, I just put numbers in, just to have numbers. I did 2%, 3%, 4%, 5% tax levy increases. And then our tax cap that we are allowed to have is 6.68%. Is the amount that we are allowed to have without having to have a supermajority pass the budget.
So I want to talk a little bit about your tax history a little bit here. So in the budget workshop packet that I gave to you in your packets, this one right here that has this chart on it. So every year when we bring this back to you, we take a look at the tax levy, what we actually tried to what we were looking at in terms of 0% or whatever percentage we went through from 18-19 up until where we are this year at 23-24. So I want you to take a look at the tax on true a little bit. Kelly, can you take us through that chart a little bit from 1819, what's going on with our tax revenues?
Yes. We have, in 1819, we had proposed a tax levy increase of 1.9%. And when all the equalization rates and the assessments were all balanced out, we actually dropped per $1,000 on tax on true by 1.69%. The same with the next year, we had proposed a 1.5% tax increase, or levy increase. And when everything came together, it actually dropped by almost 0.5%, 5.4%. In 2021, we did a 1% tax levy increase, and we dropped tax on true by 1.165. Next year, we were 0, 21, 22, and our tax on true dropped 4.85%. And the same with this current year, we went with 0 tax levy increase, and our tax on true dropped by 11.6%.
Kelly, I have to put you on the spot. What causes that reduction in tax on true?
It's a calculation of the equalization rates versus the assessments. So my house in particular is assessed for $77,000, but our tax rate, our equalization rate right now, I wanna say is 56%. So my house is only valued at 56% of what this market value would be. So in order to get a fair district-wide statement or value, we have to equalize all of the individual towns using equalization rates, and then that puts it into one pot, and we split it up from there for the taxes, so that everybody is assessed on the same level.
But that's your Norway's. What's the town
My
of
house
Newport?
in particular. Yours, I think Newport dropped last year. I should have brought my tax paper, but I don't have them.
But they were up over 100%.
They were over 100%.
So it's based on
3
what
years
town
ago.
it's in and what your equalization rate, your tax rate is in your town. And the
Right.
way to get that straight is the town should go through and do a reval through
Yes.
everybody so that everybody's right, not just the school, not just us guys. That falls back on the town.
Well, and all the taxes are calculated the same way with towns and all the districts and everybody. They do the tax calculation the same way. But Newport's has dropped quite a bit now too. In fact, they dropped the most on last year's calculation. So our tax on true in 1819 was $17, and right now it's at 14. The tax on true for the entire district.
So the big picture with all that, and there's a lot of pieces around that. I wanted Kelly to talk a little bit about that. And I know, I know in particular, some of you understand the details in the townships and the things that go on with those. In the big picture of this room, I just want you to be aware that on the revenue side of that, we haven't generated, and listen, we've been fiscally responsible throughout this whole time for a lot of reasons. You had a pandemic, we had some other funding we could use, those kinds of things. All those things played into decision making, and I wouldn't go back and change anything. But with that being said, target district money that that we were getting is no longer available at the end of this year because we're no longer cited anymore. The federal money will be done at the following year, and so forth. So at that point in time, you're, again, as you sit here, you're only control over generating revenues in this aspect of this discussion. So we always have this every year of where we want to go with that. So even when we were doing, 1 point whatever percentage, your job is so tough because you're balancing that part of it for the school district, and that could mean, as Carson mentioned, that could mean somebody else is higher than that and somebody else is dropping. It's just, and you don't have any control over that. So the only piece you have control over is what the percentage is going to be, and then the equalization rates fall how they fall, kind of which becomes the big thing at the end of this whole thing. But when we stay flat, you can see in the last 2 years, we've stayed flat. It's okay, but you're not generating, revenue actually, overall going the other way a little bit. So I just want you to be aware of that. What I don't want ever to happen in this district, and I've talked about this in the past, is I don't want to get so conservative. I don't want you to get so conservative that you get into a jam at some point, and then you're like, we're sitting in here talking about numbers that are astronomical. I'm not sitting here by any means saying that we need to go 6.68%. That's not, I wanted Kelly to show you the numbers of cost there. But I do think, at this point in time moving forward for the, on the revenue side for the district, I think there should be some consideration given to some revenue increases here for the district to support it in the long term, especially with everything going. And I know everybody's impacted by that, but the school is itself too. So you're impacted by increasing costs as well here. So just the piece I want you to see as you're looking over this tonight. And tonight, we don't need to decide on what that's going to be tonight, because we'll finalize the budget in April, on April 3rd, give you a chance to look through some of this a little more, have some more discussion. But by the time we get done on April 3rd, we want to approve that budget, and we want to make sure we know where we want to be with the tax number for next year. So, again, this is always a tough part of the budget, and trying to balance those things for sure. So, I guess my initial first part of this, is there questions on anything we went over tonight, anything that we didn't cover, or something that needs to be talked about in terms of those things, or you have questions about what we showed you, or something that we were missing from telling you that's not, telling the true story here and that kind of thing. So I just want to make sure we have everything out, so everybody has an opportunity to evaluate this. In terms of your expenditure side, I think, based on our work between last month and this month and where we're at, I think we're doing a pretty good job of keeping that rate into, an uncontrollable increase for the most part, keeping it right around that 3% range. The BOCES piece plays into this. I'll have to, obviously explain that to everybody as well, just like we did when we had our last project. You had that jump because it wasn't on the bill, but if we get the revenue back in that, with BOCES, I'm capable we're set to get that back in the same year. We'll see. So, yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
We can talk, Jessica brought it up about the School Board Association.
Yeah, so that's still in there, right, now, the School Board Association. Did I send that out to you, an update on that kind of stuff?
We talked about it last year, but we already paid it.
I don't know
That's
if
why I
everyone
brought it
got
up.
the update or just me, because I asked the question, did you all get it?
What is the increase now? It's up to what, 10,000?
No, it's 6,000.
6,000 something.
6,000 something. Yeah, so I sent that out in an update to you, basically that fee is for reduced costs, as you asked, for things you want to go to. It doesn't always, some of the things would be free, but some of them are reduced costs for memberships to go to. Some of that is for advocacy for school districts that you're paying for. To be quite honest, the New York State School Board Association is an advocate for the school districts. They offer a lot of different trainings for school boards, all those kinds of things, and some of them are included, some of them are reduced costs. So the value of that to you, and whether you want to be a member of that, is really up to you. Now, the question I think what everybody has is how much do we actually use that kind of stuff that they provide? Yeah. So that's a totally up to you type of question. I mean, that's just not a renewal of the membership. And
How much have we used it last year?
Never,
How much have we used it in the last 2 years?
never.
You get those,
What are we doing?
you get those newsletters.
Oh yeah, and I bet we all sit down and read them, because I don't.
No?
Well, I
No,
find,
click.
whenever I have a question, I just go online and anybody can just go
Right.
on their website and look up any question you have.
We weren't a member of it for numerous years, and then back I don't know, what, 10 years ago or something, we probably got on again, and how much in the last 10 years, when Grace was here, Lechkowski, a couple of them went to a couple different things, and we still ended up paying. And here we are paying, and we're not even using it.
Well, the webinar I wanted to attend, excuse me, it was $150 for me, but if I was not a member, it was $250. So, I mean, if we're just doing one or two of those a year, we might as well just pay $500 instead of
Right.
6,000 something, right?
When is it up for renewal, end of the school year, or? No, I believe it renews in the fall. Oh, okay.
So it's just a simple, we're not renewing and backing it up, if everybody's on the same page with that.
Right, for a year?
They're gonna call me 100 times.
That's all.
I'll take all the calls.
Yeah, that's good, don't send them our way, but you can take them. We'll get the email that says you're expiring, you're running out, you're expiring, and then sooner or later we won't get them anymore.
It's like when you leave Verizon, you go to the.
Yeah.
So I'll be getting those calls.
Oh,
Yeah.
they give us 50% off, maybe.
So, okay, we can
Take that out.
take that out and we won't renew it for next year. So I'm gonna get on the same page there. So, some initial thoughts on the tax. I'll throw that out to you. Initial thoughts from all of you on the tax levy for this year.
I think we're gonna have to do something, just because we haven't done anything the last few years because of all this coming in, costs going up. We've known that, and we've known we're gonna have to start looking, so you wanna be small, you wanna sit here all these years and be at a very bad situation, so.
So you haven't gone above 2 in 6 years. And the last 2 years, you've been straight flat.
Right.
So this.
0.
Yeah, you've been 0 the last 2.
We did 2%, 15 and 16, which is off this year.
That was
7 years?
17, 18.
No, 15, 16 was the last time we went 2%.
Oh,
Everything since then has been 0 or below 2%.
so when you look at your revenues, so if you go back to the chart that Kelly gave you, just so you
So
can
you're
see.
gonna what your fund balance or offset.
So if you look at this sheet here with the tax, that'll give you an idea of what each of these does for you in terms of that. So essentially, each percentage is now about $50,000 that we're looking at.
Yep.
So if you simplify it, approximately every 1% is $50,000. You're unable to generate a ton of revenue here, but as I talked to everybody in here before, you're generating revenue in the long term. So you can't look at it as 1% is 50,000. You know, okay, 1% stays, so it's 50,000. So next, over the next 5 years, that's $250,000. Am I saying that right? Yeah, it's $250,000. So you're, you know what I mean? So that's how you're looking at it. What are we looking to generate over the next 5 years in terms of revenue increases from this increase? Because you're unable to, like some districts, are able to raise, a little bit of percentage and generate quite a bit of revenue. This district is not able to do that. You're only able to generate about 50,000 on 1%. So as you look at these things, you get into a 5%, increase, you're generating about $250,000 in revenue on that.
Identified?
Nope, right off the get-go. So every percentage is a 50,000. So every, it's the math's, you can simplify the overall math a little bit with that.
I agree with Sean about doing something, but not drastic by any means. If it was 6%, go for $15.
So if you're saying
Like
6%,
for each household, like,
so 6%, it's hard, hard to figure that out, but 6% is about $300,000 in revenue across, and then depending with the equalization rates and come out to be. So keep in mind, to go the reverse of that, if you go 6%, there's some townships that could be over that, and some that could be lower than that, in terms of how this all plays out and that sort of thing. So you could have, somebody in whatever township in the town of Schuyler that could be 8.2. We went 6, it could be 8.2, and then somebody down in Middleville might only be, or in Fairfield may only be 4.1 or something. officials is 6. So, and all that's where it's hard for all of you when you're balancing this, because you're setting the overall, you know, where the equalization's amount is where it's at. So,
And historically, the equalization rates have been dropping for all townships, unless they will rebound.
my biggest concern in this room, obviously, we've got to balance our communities, our townships, and what they're paying. I just don't want you to, I think there needs to be some, we need to look at some revenue going forward here. You know, depending on the direction of how the economy goes and where we're going. It's just, I think you need to look at generating some revenue here. And then you can build off that, you know, each year we can take a look at that, see where we're at, and go from there. Gives you a little more of historical data, and you have been zero the last 2 years during. So I think you've been super during this whole pandemic. I think you've maximized all the grants, the federal money. I think you've done all of that. You know, and that's, you know, but
The other thing that we have to keep in mind is the wind tower pilot is going away in 2030. And that, at that point, it will be $350,000, that last payment. So when that drops off, there's gonna be something serious looked at.
so that sounds, so Kelly and I talked about that as well. So that sounds like a lot, but you're already, this budget's already for, you know, 24. So, you know, so we start to talk about, if you just wanted to make up, you know, get equal with the 350 in tax revenue, you've got to get, you know,
Yeah, 6 years.
yeah. Difference, you know.
Do they have to take them down, Kelly, when they're done?
In the contract, it says when they're decommissioned that they're supposed to remove them.
Unless they
Unless they
renegotiate, right? That's what they're
renegotiate
saying,
or.
So if they're renegotiating, we might also have to remove that. But they didn't remove taxes.
Somewhat, yeah, I'm sure. But they're not taking it. But-
But that's still benefit to us, right?
But
They keep them and they,
they got
when they renegotiate the pilot.
Yeah, we're
costs,
saying that.
So there would be a possibility then of that,
I would
correct?
go for one, I would.
Well, I would think, I mean,
Yeah.
they haven't had much problem from what I heard, so I wouldn't see them just tearing them down now because they're 30 years old or whatever they are, but, or will be.
So there would be the potential, I mean, that's a really
Yeah.
good point to make. I mean,
Right.
you gotta anticipate maybe that not happening, but there is a
Right.
chance that it could get, so the pilot could continue.
To some extent, yes.
It's a 15-year pilot and it goes
Oh,
out
okay.
2030.
They could go down to 15. Is that what you're saying?
But if they will.
In my opinion, I mean, doesn't matter much.
Just food for thought.
Yeah. Any other tax thoughts at this point in time? Or you wanna just absorb this for right now and come back on the third with a little bit?
If you have any questions or whatever, you can email me or
Keep
DJ,
it-
he'll give it to me or whatever.
Yeah, keep in mind that, you know, you're back in 2 weeks, so we wanna get this situated by then in 2 weeks. So I want you to really think about where you wanna go with this, and so that we can have some discussion on it and on the third, and if there's anything else you want us to look at in terms of the expenditure side of it, let us know, we can work on that as well, so that we can talk about that again on the third. Yeah,
We
we'll-
vote on it next month to go out on the May ballot, right?
we'll approve it, and
Approve it.
we're on April 3rd, yeah, so we'll approve it that night, we'll approve the budget, we'll have to approve the levy for it, that night, or?
The levy's approved in August. I mean, we have.
We have to set the percentage, yeah, we have to set the percentage, that's, I said that wrong.
The next thing we have to have is that for next month, we need to know the increase.
Yeah, we'll have to
We
decide.
have up-to-date information for that meeting.
Yeah, so this is,
The other option is we do have to go some vote on the 19th,
yeah,
so we could
You're gonna
do.
you're gonna want to have your numbers in.
The budget has to be submitted by the 25th, I believe.
The
So we're pretty solid on this draft though.
Oh, yeah.
There's not much room, is what you're saying?
The expenditure.
No, what I'm saying is the numbers are, if you wanna look at expenditures being decreased, I'm not saying that, but you know, where we give you kind of predicted numbers, we have those numbers in this draft. So like the BOSI's numbers, the retirement numbers, all those things that weren't solid before, they're in now. So
Okay.
this is more solid for you at this point in time. Yeah. in terms of
The only thing you're waiting on is the percentage.
that. Yeah, and if there's anything else, like we'll take out the,
Board.
yeah, yeah.
That's big, but.
No, but.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah.
A little bit, so.
Well,
You know, I wanna be careful with the cost of things, squeezing things too much. You know, there's just, I wish that I had more knowns, so we were a little more steady economically in the country right now, but we're not, so it's hard to, I think you gotta always kinda,
that's the next thing, with inflation, I can see an increase, but I'm not in favor of going crazy. Well, because now you got back to back, you got another proposition you're putting up for the field
Yep.
and everything else.
Yep.
I'm not happy with 6, when you said 6, but.
Oh, no,
No, I
I
know, I'm
just
just
went
saying.
No, I'm not,
Uh-huh.
I'm not suggesting 6, I just.
No, I know, I'm-
Yeah. See what
Right.
the number would be. And then we can. Yeah. What'd you say? Low.
Oh, but definitely an increase.
I said it was your, I could see something,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I'll fight for the rest of it, but I can see a little bit, but I can't see, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking out for the taxpayer. You know, we gotta be physically or fiscally responsible, that's all. So, I mean, as far as this run, the salaries are pretty tight, pretty close, or whatever you said, right, Kelly? Now, how about some of this other stuff? Is there room for some of this stuff?
I went through it earlier today and knocked down some stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just for instance, not a lot, but I just look at this and you got snow removal. You got 500 for one more and this and that. Are we on a contract with them?
That's the contract price.
Oh, okay, it's going up?
It increases the next
Right.
2 years.
Okay. In fuel, you took an average, you said?
Took an average of this year's expenditures per gallon, for out the loads we've gotten so far. And, I think in November, we paid $4.87 a gallon. And then 2 weeks ago, we got it for $2.62.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you wanna fill them up now,
Throw a dart.
I know.
because it's not gonna stay down.
And as soon as I can take a load, I call. But- And I can, the SRO thing was a total guess. That's what we are right now with our existing SRO, and I'm sure that could be dropped some. But we haven't gotten our first bill yet for the second SRO that we have right now.
So that number's the combined two salaries.
Not that, that's part of that number.
That's part of
That's just in
the
that cap,
increase,
in
is
that.
part of that number.
Yeah. Anything else for tonight? I don't need an answer. I'm happy with the fact that you're considering some revenue. I think that's a good decision. And then we can kind of go from there and talk a little bit more. You look at it, you kind of look through this and come in with your thoughts on the 3rd. I don't want to necessarily make a recommendation or persuade you at this point. I want you to look at those types of things. What I will say is that my recommendation is that you begin to think about creating some revenue. I'm not saying you gotta go crazy. I just don't wanna be sitting here either with all of you at some point and saying, there's a huge gap here, all this stuff happened, and now I gotta go, we've gotta present that we're doing, why all of a sudden are we doing, and you see this in other districts. You're talking double-digit percentage increases, because there's with that happened, all this stuff, and it caught up with you after a while. So, yeah, we gotta look at expenditures, make sure we're being tight there. But we also got funding and controls too, so.
We gotta be careful using up too much fund balance at one time.
So the fund balance piece, and Sean brought this up, yeah, we wanna be around there, but like long-term goals, we're looking at a few different things here. They're looking to increase your capital outlay to $250,000. So if you think back to years ago when you did your $100,000 projects, they're gonna allow you to do $250,000 projects potentially if this all goes through. So if you have your capital reserves for those kinds of things, I'm gonna give you one specific example, your parking lot. So it doesn't seem like it, but it started, you're quite a few years out on that parking lot already. So at some point in time, you don't want it to get to where it was before with your curb sidewalks and your parking lot, where you gotta complete, as everybody that was here, in the pictures that I could share, it's like the demolition display. You wanna be milling things or doing some repairs, and that's gonna have a significant cost to it. But if you have capital reserves and those are things you plan for, then, we build this thing up and you've got a brand new parking lot again for this much of the cost that you did when you dug the whole thing up. So those are just some things to think about as I'm looking around the building, things that you've invested money into that you wanna maintain, because you were in rough shape with that parking lot, curbs and sidewalks when we did the project. So you wanna keep that going, and there's ways to do that, but you gotta plan for it. So those are costs, just looking ahead, that you're gonna want to. So you're taking care of some things in the building, you've got some project proposals and things for the outside facilities, you took care of the outside, and then now you wanna try to do a little more maintenance on that too. So you wanna maintain what you did, you don't wanna start over again. So those are things that I think about as I'm thinking about all these things. So when I think about fund balance, I think about, okay, let's get to a point where we're comfortable in the pandemic and some different things kind of threw a loop into this, but let's get to a point where maybe we can shift some money over that, please the auditors and not be in situations where cover TRS, ERS, and some of these workers' comp, and let's get into maybe some, capital reserve stuff here as well. So, I don't know, those are things that you can do with the money that you have as well.
Yeah, they want us to drop down to 4% fund balance, that's not even realistic number. 4% does not let us pay any expenditures in the summer. And we don't have revenue until September when the taxes start.
Or like our electric bill and stuff, does that go down any, we're doing some of this
Yeah,
lighting and all that stuff.
that's why she reduced it.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so some of that stuff, it's gone down, what she's guessing to reduce, and now we're gonna do more, so it should be going down more.
Yeah.
So it's not,
Sure.
When we do those gym lights, it will drop.
that's what I mean, so that's gonna be less money we're gonna be spending there, so we have some options, and we
We
do have.
pay little to nothing for those parking lot lights. They're so efficient in front, they're bright, and those new lighting is just so much better.
And if we can get the auditorium done, that would be another huge
Right.
thing. The performance lighting, not necessarily the.
So, any other questions as of tonight with this? We'll come back in a couple weeks with this, and we'll probably have, this will be 2 weeks, probably the main and one of the limited parts of the agenda for that month. So we'll have time to talk about it and go from there and bring your thoughts back and make some decisions.
Okay. Okay, we're going to talk about UPK. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I gave you an update. I want to update everybody on the capital project we're doing here. And I gave you a handout for this that I was going to talk about last Monday. I just kind of want to update you on. We are still waiting. I was actually hoping that we might hear today that our project's been approved at State Ed, because we're getting really close. We're down to them evaluating our high school gym doors, which we're going to put on the back burner for now because they're giving us a hard time about the design of them. They want us to tear out frames and get into taking part of the gym floor into there, a whole bunch of different things for this. that we're not willing to get into right now with those doors. So we basically said at this point, stop evaluating them. If we decide to do them, we'll go back into those at a later time. Let's just get this approved and go forward, because I'm not gonna sit here and wait for them to evaluate. Keep in mind that the design we had to replace those doors with what we had has already been approved in other places, which is why the design now, depending on who you get out there, it's that kind of thing. So that's what was holding us up. So there's a chance that we're gonna hear in the next couple of days that we're approved. Again, as I mentioned last month, that we're not letting this hold up our bidding process, which is the big thing for us as a district. But as soon as I hear that we are officially approved, I will let you know that. The bidding is expected to be published tomorrow. There's going to be a pre-bid meeting by next Thursday. Again, all this stuff is tentative, but the dates that they're giving me. The bid opening is tentatively scheduled for April 18th here, which would be the week, I think, after the break. They'll put together our bid recommendation letters, which will be submitted to the district by the 21st, and then we will approve the bids at the end of April. We're looking at either April 25th or 26th. Again, once I get more information on that. So you do have a few different things that you're going to have coming up here. You've got your meeting on April 3rd. You'll have your BOCES budget meeting that's coming up, as Kelly mentioned, in April that they went over tonight with you. And then we'll probably have to get back together again at the end of April to approve the bids that we received on the project. Again, reminder, this just for public now, this is all for the phase 1 approved part of the project that we already have public approval for. I continue to talk about these. We got a little bit better on this since I typed this thing up. The lead times are concerned with a lot of different things, especially anything that we're doing with HVAC is where the concerns are with lead times. This is real simple. The federal money's out there for all the districts and everybody and buildings and all these places to use. It's earmarked for HVAC for the most part, so everybody's upgrading HVAC, which causes lead time issues and so forth. Our biggest concern with the lead times for us personally is the dehumidification unit that goes on the roof of the pool. Because we're fighting two different deadlines for that. We're fighting a deadline to order that, which we did. We ordered it. And we're fighting, because we're paying for that with the federal money that's there, they have dates, real strict dates that are set for September 30th for the money to be encumbered, and October 15th to be paid in full of 2023. So we've got to get the unit here, get it basically installed by those dates, and get it done and close out the federal money and get it paid for, because that's going to be 100% paid for. So we don't want to have another $700,000 on our own capital project budget when we're getting it in terms of federal money. So that's our main focus with the lead times. It looks like, based on the emails we got today, that we've reduced our lead time to 20 weeks. We have ordered it, so you know, we backed that up. We think that's going to put us in much better shape with that. They were going to do all the work leading up to it, so that we could just get to the unit once it arrived. I mentioned 24 weeks in this update, but they think they could probably get it around 20 weeks now by us getting it in there and get going with it. Now, what I want to mention about that, the other conflict we'll have with that is we're working on it this summer. So we initially thought we were going to be able to get that in this summer. I didn't really anticipate that we'd have any impact on swim in the fall. I do anticipate now we're going to have some impact on the swim. So how long into the swim season, I don't know. But I would say that at least to start, we're going to have to relocate in August, into September a little bit probably, with our swim team to practice and to compete in the fall until the humidification unit gets installed. We can get the pool refilled. Obviously all the pool work will get done this summer. So there will be no summer swim or anything that we'll be doing this year, because all the pool work will be getting done, so that won't happen this summer. And you know, start to look at, we'll start to talk with the league about alternate locations for us for meets and so forth with that going forward. Obviously, we'll plan for worst case scenario with that, and maybe it won't be as bad. Maybe things will come in and we'll get it in, and it won't be that long into the fall before we're done. But again, it's just something that we need to be aware of going into the fall. So, any questions on the update to the phase 1, the timelines, the schedules you're going to see through April, and the bidding and the work, which will start likely in May sometime? Okay. So, phase 2 of the project. Synthesis is, at this time, preparing, you passed all your resolutions you needed to pass for it to get on the ballot, the seeker is completed, all the things that you needed to do as a group are set for right now. Synthesis is preparing our presentation materials, which we'll start to post soon for the public hearing on the second phase of that. The second phase of the project, as we've discussed tonight in the resolutions, are field lights, field turf, bleachers, and some internal work to be approved by, which was based on the approval by, that would be needed for the approval by the State Education Department. The resolutions, as I mentioned, were on the agenda tonight. The public hearing for phase 2, I'll try to get the material out to everybody so that we start to advertise and present some of this stuff, and then I'll hold the public hearing on the same night as our budget hearing on May 8th. So the night that we do the budget for this year, I'll also present all the materials and answer questions about the vote for that on May 16th. If the public approves phase 2 on May 16th, we'll go from there and initiate the agreement with the anonymous donor at that point, which will secure the first payment of that phase that we've been talking about. That is $500,000. So once we get that approved, or once it's potentially approved, I should say, then I'll secure the contracts for that money and go from there. If it's approved, the work on phase 2, we do the bidding the same sort of time. There won't be a lot of extensive work with that part of it for this phase 2 part of it, and that work would begin in the spring of 2024 with completion hopefully by the fall of 2024. So you're another year out on that kind of stuff. So where might that impact us the following year? I'm just kind of looking ahead to phase 2. If it's approved, if we go through all these types of things, then your outdoor ceremonies probably would have to be relocated for the class of 2024. So if you think ahead to that, because we probably would have the football field torn up at that point in time. So we'd have to either relocate it outside. I know there's a lot of people who like it out there, so we might have to relocate just to another area on our property, for our ceremonies that we're holding. So we'll look at that. We also. What's that?
How large is that class?
Class of 2024.
How many?
I don't know.
He doesn't know.
You know what the junior, is it the junior class then? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, it might be like 54, 55.
it in this thing.
54 maybe?
The other piece of that is we'll have to prepare potentially for delays to fall sports seasons being used on it. That won't impact soccer too much because we have other fields, but it could impact football if the turf and the lights and all that work and the bleachers cut into the fall of the next 24 years. So those are just things down the road. This has not even been approved, but I'm just throwing it out to you as all potential. So that is the update on the project, both phases of the project. The BOCES project, as we mentioned, is going to be underway. They have a building condition survey. I gave you that information on that in terms of where that would be down the road. And then again, they're looking at years down the road once this project's paid off, roofs and some things that are down there. Their building condition survey is a lot different than our building condition survey here. I'll just leave it at that. And, so they're on part 1 of their work, and down the road, they're gonna have some more work down there as well in years ahead. So, but that work will get started, and they're gonna start to meet some of the codes and things that need to be done down there for sure, so. That's the overall projects that are going on in the area and where we're at scheduling wise. So does anybody have any questions for me? Is there anything I didn't cover tonight that you have questions about, or anything I can find out more information about for you?
So the presentation that we're gonna have,
Yeah.
that goes on to the public, is
Yeah.
it drawings?
Yeah, so they'll put together, some things, there'll probably be some stuff around the school, things we can put up on social media, on the website. It'll be in a newsletter, obviously, it goes out with all those kinds of things, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions on that?
I think they should consider going inside with the graduation in 2024.
Okay. Definitely would be
Consider.
Definitely would be a consideration.
45 kids, it's not gonna kill them.
definitely be a consideration.
Huh?
Definitely be a consideration, yeah.
The kids stay on the stage.
Yeah, they'd be on the stage like they were
You can
before.
see 'em.
Yep, yep. Yep.
I mean, you could- at least in the stage, you could see the kids.
Yeah.
Where it is now, you can't see them.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Under bleachers. And at night under the lights, where it's
Class,
cool,
class of 2024.
outside.
They all set.
Put the kids on the bleachers and the parents on the field.
Field tour,
There you go.
bleachers, all kinds of stuff out there.
Fireworks.
Fireworks.
You will be using that space.
Well, keep them out of school, pay air conditioning, but
No, sure. The possibility of playing football.
All right. Any other questions on capital projects?
Okay, now UPK.
So UPK, Mrs. Holmes kind of updated you on this. She's, sort of taking this over at this point to start to design that program. As I mentioned last month, the grant money is there. We have also applied for an extension grant for this. Yep, when I hear one way or the other, I will let you know about that, which will help expand our money for the UPK program. But one of the things I wanted to address tonight, she already addressed all the registrations and so forth with that, is I just want you to be aware of a couple different things. When we look at 2 classrooms, if we get over the number, somebody asked this before, if we get over the number of 36, and we start to bring in more students into that, we have a cap on that as well. We would have to bring another 8 into those rooms, so we'll watch those numbers to see to have the 2 classrooms. And again, we're at, Mrs. Holmes, 35 packets are out.
35 packets are currently out, yes.
So we'll see when they get turned in, but if let's just hypothetically say all 35 turn them in, you got 1 left. Yeah, so, so that's a good sign. I think that's a good sign for popularity of the full day program initially, that people are interested in that. So that can go one way or the other, but people are. I've had some questions from our daycares in the area and some other people in terms of drop-offs. What I'll say to that is we're going to work with our community members with that drop-off. We're going to create a range of time that they can do the drop-offs in the morning. I'll give you one example of one of the questions I received. Daycares that have pre-K students and regular ed students. So the way the system works for some of them right now is they get their K through 12 kids, or I should say K through 12, K through whatever kids that are at daycare on the bus in the morning, and then they would come down after and drop the pre-K kids off because of the transportation. So there was concern over whether if those 2 times conflicted, the bus pickup time with them having to bring the kids down here. So we're gonna work with them on those, whether it be bus pickup times that Felix doesn't know about yet, or whether it be a range of drop-off times that they can. We're gonna work with them, because I think some of those situations will be so small and that we can adjust to those kinds of things, especially if we have a larger window in the morning for drop-off times. And we've got breakfast, and we've got some different plans in place for that along the way. So anybody who's listening, or anybody who asked you those sort of questions, we're gonna work with them as we get the numbers and the times and the drop-off times and the ranges of that, so that we can accommodate what we need for that in the morning. In the afternoon, the buses, will be available to everybody at that point in time, so. Any other questions on UPK at this stage of the game?
Will their drop-off now move to the left side of the building where the kids are getting off? If pre-K gets off over on the right side right now, so are they gonna come in with the other kids, or are they gonna go onto the left side?
So the kid, they're still gonna be at a
Go
different
on
time than our
the side.
elementary kids, so we'll probably decide on where, I'm assuming, I hate to assume, but there wouldn't be anybody there that they couldn't come through the front doors at that time, because they're gonna be earlier than the elementary kids, so we'll work that out, Mrs. Holmes and I, and we'll figure out the drop-off situations, and whether they're going right to the cafeteria to eat breakfast, that might play a part in where we do that, those sort of things.
Okay.
Any other questions on UPK?
Will they be part of the morning program?
That's the plan as of right now.
I just random talking.
Yeah.
Parents will love that.
Okay, target district.
All right, so Mr. Broadbent already mentioned most of what we need for the target district, and I mentioned a little bit in our budget. We, thank you to our staff, our principals, you know, the planning, Mr. Broadbent working with the plans, Mrs. Holmes, with all the things that she did prior to that, and the instructional coaches, and changing and instituting research-based programs into, there's a lot of things positively that occurred that are gonna have long-lasting positive impacts on the curriculum and the instruction in the building. So, as much as I mentioned, we didn't want to be on a list, there's no doubt that it in a lot of ways it benefited us moving forward in terms of what we could do. And it really was, you know, the work and the time spent by our principals and our teachers and the support of all of you in here that really got that steamrolling. And it got us to a point now where we're not on the list anymore. So we can take what we've learned and what we've gotten and build from there. Now, we'll have to adjust some things, you know, financially without the financial supports that they've given us, but we've planned for some of those things. And, you know, we'll have to look at some other areas where, you know, maybe we need to plan for other things in the long term. So we are off of the list starting next year, and, you know, that's a good thing overall for the district. So, any questions on any of the target district stuff?
Okay, tax exemption.
Yes. So in your packets, I gave you a handout. I'm sure a lot of you have heard, and those of you that have been on this board for a long time, this is not a new discussion here, okay? But it's something that has to be sort of presented to boards around the state for discussion purposes and so forth. So tax exemptions, there's a proposal, or I shouldn't say a proposal, it's in effect, an opportunity for school districts to offer tax exemptions for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers. Again, I'm not going to take you through all of the information, hopefully you got a chance to read that, but there's some stipulations that are associated with it in terms of how this would go about. There would have to be a public hearing on this, and it would have to be approved, and so forth. So when you look at these tax exemptions, they write it as a tax exemption, but the reality, and Kelly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it's a reduction in their taxes, which is redistributed to the other taxpayers that are in the district. So I want to be clear with that. And we had this discussion when we talked about the veteran tax exemption, where, you know, districts are reluctant to do these kinds of things, and boards are reluctant to do these kinds of things, not just here or anywhere at all, because really the decision is not a 10% reduction. It's a 10% reduction for those volunteers that would qualify, but you have to understand that whatever that dollar amount in that is redistributing to other people who are not in this. I also need to make you aware, those of you that weren't on the board, that we don't have the veterans tax exemption. We already had that discussion. So the reality of these kinds of things is I think on paper they have great intent and so forth, but it's really challenging for districts our size to do that. And that's kind of the discussion. Really appreciative of veterans and everything associated with that. Really appreciative of the people who volunteer in our areas and so forth with that. But it becomes challenging for you to do that. So, but I do need to present it to you and get your thoughts on that. If you choose to stay status quo and this is not something you wish to pursue further, that's okay at this time. It doesn't go anywhere. So if we don't want to pursue it at this time and we're essentially done with this at this point. If you do want to pursue this, then we start to put through the stipulations and the work that has to be done. There has to be a public hearing on it, and then it goes from there. Then you pass the resolution on the next meeting after the public hearing. So that's the story behind all this. I'm just presenting it tonight to you. Is there any questions on it or any activity in here to move forward with this? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, announcements. March 24th and 25th will be Alice in Wonderland at 7 p.m. and the admission is $5. March 30th is the HFHO annual meeting at 6 p.m. April 3rd will be our next board meeting at 6 p.m. April 17th, school board petitions are due by 5 p.m. May 8th, public hearing in our regular meeting at 6 p.m. And May 16th is the budget vote from 12 to 8 p.m. And do we have any public comments? Motion to adjourn? Sarah first, Sean second, all in favor?